Could former Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy be making a return to Kansas City after 1 year at UCLA? We will discuss that possibility and more coming up on this edition of the Kansas City Chiefs Report. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Before we go any further in today's show, folks, I want to set a comment record. From my knowledge, I do not recall us ever getting 1,000 comments on a single video on this show. I don't think we've reached 500 in quite some time either, folks. So why not us? Why not today be the day that we get over 1,000 comments on today's show? Spam KC in the comments section, and whoever spams it the most, if we reach 1,000, you'll get a shout out on a later edition of the Kansas City Chiefs Report. Spam KC, and we'll get started with today's show. After one season, Eric Bieniemy is out as the offensive coordinator at UCLA, where the Bruins offense did not have much success at all. They were ranked 117th in the country in total offense, and now they will go a different direction. Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports putting out this post on X this morning. UCLA is making a change at offensive coordinator. Eric Bieniemy is out, sources tell Yahoo Sports. Bruins finished 117th in total offense this season. And then Eric Bieniemy's agent, Jason Fletcher, put the following statement out after the news that Bieniemy was leaving UCLA. Eric and UCLA mutually parted ways today as previously planned. He's still getting paid by the Commanders after interviewing for head coaching jobs last year. He wanted to stay active and busy, so he decided to go out and help Deshaun Foster, who is like a little brother at UCLA, as opposed to sitting out a year. The plan was always to return to the NFL in 2025, and he's looking forward to the opportunities ahead. Whether he was fired or not, and there's conflicting reports on that front, whether he was or if they parted ways with him. What you can't deny is that this year at UCLA was a horrible look for Eric Bieniemy. No matter how you slice it one way or the other, this year was not successful. Does it define Eric Bieniemy of what he's done for his coaching career? Absolutely not. But at the very least, it is a major setback from where he was just a few years ago, a part of multiple Super Bowl winning title teams with the Kansas City Chiefs. So, a quick refresher on what has gone on as of late with Bieniemy. He did a very good job as the Chiefs offensive coordinator, but notably, it was not the Chiefs play caller. Those duties belonging to Andy Reid, and he was up for several NFL head coaching jobs as the Chiefs OC, but struggled in those interviews and ultimately did not land any head coaching jobs. And then he felt the need to prove himself, to get out of the shadow of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and to go somewhere else where he could actually have play calling duties. So he went to Washington and joined Ron Rivera and took over play calling duties. But then after a tough year in Washington, Bieniemy was not retained as the OC for the Commanders under new head coach Dan Quinn, who went out and hired Cliff Kingsbury to be his OC. And they've had a fantastic offense this year. Then, after that happened, the Chiefs making their playoff push last year, they were getting ready to face the Ravens in the AFC Championship game, and Andy called up his old buddy and asked him to assist the Chiefs coaching staff in the game plan for facing Baltimore. And we've been told that Bieniemy was in the locker room, that he had quite the motivating speech for the Chiefs players prior to that AFC Championship game, that he was heavily involved. After that, he ended up joining UCLA's coaching staff as their offensive coordinator for this past season, and it did not go so well. Bieniemy has clearly had his struggles outside of Kansas City. When he's not been in the Chiefs system, it has not gone well these past two seasons, to put it mildly. But that doesn't mean the door is completely closed on a potential return for Bieniemy to Kansas City. If Andy thinks he can use him, they'll find a way to bring him back. What exactly that role is, we'll talk more about coming up in just a bit. But if the Chiefs want him, they will bring him back. And Andy Reid still has the utmost respect for Eric Bieniemy. He said this at the Super Bowl last year. I would tell you, I think his coaching future is great. I'm obviously a big fan of his, and I know the things he can do. So let's ask you guys, should the Chiefs bring back Eric Bieniemy to Kansas City? You got two options here. Type Y for yes, in for no. Weigh in our pinned comment. Let us know what you think. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. Choose two or more players on any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points in football, rebounds in basketball, goals in hockey, all sorts of different categories to choose from. Football, a big deal this time of year on Prize Picks, whether it's the college game, the pro game, as we're getting closer to the college playoffs beginning here in a couple weeks. Just a few weeks remaining in the pro football regular season as well. Check out what I got on Prize Picks this week. I'm going with DeAndre Hopkins to have more than 47.5 receiving yards. Also going with Justin Herbert to have less than 229.5 passing yards. If I put $20 down, both these hit, that turns into $60 on Prize Picks. And Prize Picks has got a great deal they're offering. They'll give you $50 for free when you play $5. You don't even have to win to get the money. Check it out today. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. Let's take a look at Bieniemy's resume. Was the Chiefs offensive coordinator from 2018 to 2022, and then went on to Washington for one season in 2023 before joining UCLA staff this past season for the 2024 campaign. And for Bieniemy, I think for him, he's defined by what he did in Kansas City. That would be his calling card of his most successful years by far of what he did here, to be a part of multiple Super Bowls, working with the development of Patrick Mahomes and seeing where this Chiefs offense was, and not to mention the Chiefs offense under Bieniemy was significantly better than what we've seen the last couple of seasons with Matt Nagy as the Chiefs offensive coordinator. I'll say this, though. If Eric Bieniemy had to do it all over again, he would have never left Kansas City. The situation that he had here was much better than he could have ever realized. He was in a spot where he wasn't having to call plays. Andy was taking care of that. He had the best quarterback in football, an amazing fan base that supported this team and this organization, future Hall of Fame players like Travis Kelce and Pro Bowl caliber players like Isaiah Pacheco. There was a good thing going on here. And I would argue that Bieniemy's situation that he was in previously, even though he wasn't the play caller, was still better than some head coaching jobs in the NFL. But Bieniemy took that for granted, and he is paying the price for that right now with how his career has gone since. So what could a role for Bieniemy look like if he did make a return to Kansas City? Well, there's two things that come to mind for me. One would be a consultant or assistant coach role where Andy Reid could open the door and say, hey, we're going to find a spot for you somewhere on this coaching staff. But one thing I also wouldn't rule out, if Matt Nagy ends up taking a head coaching job, which is very possible, his name is already circulating for several different jobs in this upcoming cycle, in theory, there would be an offensive coordinator opening, and Eric Bieniemy could potentially have his old job back. The thing that I loved most about Eric Bieniemy in his time in Kansas City, he wasn't afraid to be the adult in the room and hold guys accountable. And guys didn't always take it so well. We saw some back and forths at times between him and Patrick Mahomes. But then you fast forward to last season, and it was clear they were missing Bieniemy's presence with nobody to really keep these guys in check the way Bieniemy did. There was some growing pains throughout last year without having him there. Ultimately, it paid out, and this team played through those situations, but it wasn't the same without having Bieniemy there, and they felt the need to call him back for that AFC Championship game. I'll say this, though. As much as we talk about Eric Bieniemy, and I see in the comments section you guys mentioning a lot about the idea of bringing Bieniemy back, there's another name that I figure we need to talk about besides Bieniemy, and that's Doug Pederson. I would not sleep on Doug Pederson potentially making a return to KC. And the Jags are expected to move on from Pederson if Andy wants to reunite with an old friend, personally, I think Pederson's a better option than Eric Bieniemy is. Now, you could potentially live in a world where you bring both guys in, but if one of them's got to be the coordinator and I got to choose between the two, I'm going with the guy that's got a Super Bowl ring as a head coach. I would give that job to Doug Pederson if I'm choosing between those two. Pick one to hire. Which one would you rather have if it's down to these two, Eric Bieniemy or Doug Pederson? Type EB for Eric Bieniemy. Type DP, not for Dr. Pepper, but for Doug Pederson. Weigh in, let us know in the comment section below. The Chiefs Report is bringing you nonstop Chiefs coverage as we have our daily news and rumors. We're going to be live coming up on Sunday for Chiefs and Chargers. Big Tex is going to be here with me. You won't want to miss out on that for our watch party. We are all over your Kansas City Chiefs. Your one-stop shop for all things Kansas City Chiefs is right here on the Chiefs Report. Any news breaks out between now and Sunday. I know I got a couple off days here. I'll be enjoying myself, but you better believe I'll find time for the kingdom to bring you any breaking news that happens. We'll talk about it here on the channel. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/ChiefsTV. So let's talk more about Doug Pederson for a moment here, the current Jags head coach for a few more weeks anyway, before he's expected to be relieved of his duties. Was also with the Philadelphia Eagles, where he led the Eagles to a Super Bowl title with former Chiefs quarterback Nick Foles. And his time in Kansas City from 2013 to 2015 was the early years in the Andy Reid era when we really started to see this offense start to develop, and they were putting their fingerprints on this scheme of what it is now. The foundation was laid in large part of what Andy Reid's offense looks like right now in Kansas City based on what Doug Pederson did in his time in Kansas City many years ago. Doug Pederson and Andy Reid go way back. Beyond just what Doug Pederson did with the Kansas City Chiefs as offensive coordinator, he played under Andy Reid as a player many years ago in Green Bay. And Andy Reid's been a big fan of Pederson for a long time. He said this a while back. He knows the kind of coaching he liked and didn't. So within his own personality, he presents it in a friendly manner, yet is demanding of the guys. I think that's a positive. I was with him when he was a player, and I've been with him as a coach. He's got a good way about him. So with that said, Bieniemy and Pederson, if one of them's got to be the next OC, I think the call here is to go with Doug Pederson. But I'm not opposed to bringing both guys back. And we've seen Andy do this before, bringing in guys he's familiar with, guys that he trusts. I think there could be a happy medium where you bring both guys back to this staff next year. Pederson as the OC, Bieniemy as a consultant or quarterbacks coach, position coach of some sorts, and then you get the best of both worlds. And I think that would be a very best-case scenario for Kansas City if it works out that way. Should the Chiefs bring back DP, Dougie P? Type S for sign, P for pass, weigh in, let us know. Appreciate you joining us here on this edition of the Kansas City Chiefs Report. Follow me on X at Tyler Jones Live for continuing Chiefs coverage, and we'll see you next time here on the channel.